And we've seen this IO many times now from Adroit being run as a position 1. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it just really falls flat. I'm curious to see if Adroit are planning to run that POS 1 IO again today, or whether it is going to be a POS 5. I suppose only time's going to tell with that. But it really does feel quite lackluster up until you hit like that level 25 point, the level 20 point on the IO. When you do have the talent as well as the Ags up, they also go ahead and pick up a Slardar now.
Yeah, it's something we've seen Adroit do, as you mentioned. I do like the possibility more of a CML IO over an MCY IO. It's been mixed. You mentioned it. The spikes are pretty darn late for MCY. Ags into 2025 talent has come out. If it is a core IO, I suppose Slardar to teeter onto is pretty darn okay.
Yep.
It's not too bad, and you do have that move speed thing, right? Like we noticed it once or twice, but when Adroit do that, you get the sprint off, he suddenly move at 700 ms, so that's pretty nice for the IO. I suppose there's that to play with, but Cignal Ultra are going for the safe draft. They've got the Eris Marana, they've got the Grimstroke on top for initiation, they've got this Tiny, which is looking like our Jamesy hero here, down mid to nuke down. So it's much more straightforward. I think the only worry here for Cignal is figuring out their Tiny mid matchup, so they might be expecting the Void Spirit mid against Tiny, and in that case, it's pretty alright for the Tiny. Physical harassment on Void Spirits, not too bad. And Cignal do go with the Mars, so they can swap that down towards mid as well if they feel like it for JMC and run the Tiny off perhaps. They've got this Mars Marana combo we've seen a couple of times of Spear into Arrow. Works pretty darn well for the most part. You don't have any other hard setup though. That's something to watch out for. Adroit do go back to the Undying, and we have seen this one to mixed results. Now, in this case, you only really have Marana and Grimstroke to kind of clear out the Tombstone. I'd say that's pretty much enough. Marana alone, with the attack speed buff you get from leaping, is already good. So you've got to be on point with how you position your Tombstone here as the Undying. And, Undying Slardar IO, you do have to play this one fast. Your draft is just kind of tied around playing super fast here for Adroit.
Yeah, should be pretty interesting from these two teams. Seems like both of them are still lacking that POS 1, unless Adroit again run the IO POS 1, but if they want a proper position 1, they are still definitely lacking. Cignal Ultra will wait for their ban to come out because they are also lacking a position 1 right now. What do you want to give to a bat this game? Might be a bit hard to pick into Adroit without really understanding what their position 1 is going to be. They'll take a bit of time thinking about this. They've actually been banning out POS 1s themselves, so they seem to assume this is going to be a support IO. They'll even get rid of the Alchemist just at the end, just in case the Arc was going to come out. And they go for the Invoker pickup, which still kind of leaves everything open, but I do believe we are seeing a POS 1 IO again.
Yeah, it's looking like the case now. Question is for Adroit, what's their pause for? Like, is it the? I think it's a 4. Actually, yeah, it's the Boomy Void Spirit more than likely with the Nico Slardar again. So we've kind of seen this before. Um, they do have some decent team fight with the Invoker. That's a lot of pressure here on Mac to really land his spells. Boomy as well has to make short work with his Void Spirit. Got to run around, get active early on. Cignal Ultra for their part, they have a bit of a better stitch draft. You're not taking this gambit with anything like an IO. You've got Mars, you've got the Tiny, you've got the Marana, which have all been performing pretty well. They've got a lot of room here to pick their hero for the safe lane, so a bot's got a huge pool to choose from if we wanted to, and it's looking pretty darn good. I would have said Lifestealer was nice, but they did ban that out themselves. And in this case, you can just go something like Jug. Like just get something with inbuilt spell immunity. It's gonna remove all the damage on the IO once you just start spinning around. It's gonna be it's gonna be annoyed by the Slardar, something like the Jug, but you are gonna avoid the damage from the Invoker when they initiate if you're fast enough with your spin. Even Undying doesn't enjoy that too much because spell immunity just annoys him too. They go with the Bloodseeker instead for Cignal Ultra. So Bloodseeker Tiny. It's the Rupture Toss combination coming out, and with a pause 1 Bloodseeker, it is also a pretty fast pace for Cignal Ultra, but it's not something with wildly swinging timings because of, Bloodseeker is a much more solid one. IO, as we've talked about, just takes so much more to go online, and it is going to be the MCY IO with a Boomy Void Spirit. So, Adroit, they've got to put a lot of work in to make this IO work again.
It'll be a very interesting draft from this Cignal Ultra side. I think we've seen the POS 1 Bloodseeker from them once. Pretty sure last time we saw it, it was pretty lackluster. I can't remember if it was them exactly that were playing it, but not sure about this. These two drafts are kind of like, you just don't know which way it's going to go, right? Like this, does the POS 1 IO get to the late game? Does a ban on the Bloodseeker? Is he going to be aggressive enough and influential enough in the game to actually finish it off before you get to that level 20 mark on IO? It's all up in the air.
It is. I'd say Cignal Ultra has a better shot, in my opinion, based on draft. Draft alone, I think you're talking about, this instant burst from your Tiny. It is the James C. Mars coming out, so we'll see how that does against Mac, but that should be an okay time for James C. I don't think it's too bad for him to play with. There's some pressure here for Cignal Ultra to get this blink timing in their Tiny, but at the same time, they've got Arena Bloodright. That's already a strong enough combo. Look at the combos of Adroit. They have no big setup here. Their biggest AoE stun outside of Invoker spells is really that Slaughter or Crush. And then if you get a good Crush with a Tombstone on top and a couple of the K-stacks, maybe you win these fights, but it really relies on Cignal Ultra kind of staying around for a long time. They just don't have that follow-up to keep Cignal Ultra tied in. I think that's the biggest issue for Adroit. Now, again, historically, Adroit has beat them by a huge margin. So this could just be confidence from Adroit, but with the roster shakeups they've went through the past few months, it's been up and down. It does feel like the team still needs to sort of figure out what direction they want to take themselves in. Their drafting's been a bit experimental, and we'll just have to see. I do think this is going to be a fairly hard game for MCY, but I suppose when you have IO Undying, that can be a powerhouse early game in terms of the duo. They've just got to get their spacings right.
Yeah. Find out how all this pans out. I think it's going to be more up to Cignal Ultra to be the aggressive ones with this draft. Like, if the game goes late enough, this IO is going to carry them. I mean, we've seen it before. The 20 talent is just too strong with an Aghanim Scepter on IO. They just, you can't fight into it once he's got it up. It is really up to Abad and his teammates to just set a tempo, get a lot of kills going, get a lot of farm, and just push lanes out of control. Don't let the IO, get to that point where you just can't beat him.
Boomy again, just constantly talking here. Saying something about a bot having 250k for some reason.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was like, if Sana all, which is like, how about us, or how about everyone else? I wish everyone else had it.
You gotta win.
A bot's just telling him to stream. It's like, Boomy, you gotta stream. Get yourself out there, Boomy.
Streaming money is pretty good these days, I'd say. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Good on a bat for saving up some money. Always good to see. They are putting the Mars mid as well, by the way. So they are going to go for the off lane Tiny. In fact, I say that. No, it should be the off lane Tiny. Pos for Mirana, of course, coming out here from Eris.
Yeah, it's an interesting swap out. I feel like Van would have had an easy or okay time down mid, but looks like James, he's just fine with this. He's going to clear out the creep wave with God's Rebuke. Mac, early levels for Invoker are not great. He should still be able to, kind of work that lane a bit, but we have seen a lot of Invokers have issues when you have this kind of core that just doesn't get bullied out. So James, he should have his work cut out for him. We'll see if he will get some supports down. You've got great roaming potential here with Mirana. So that means Aris is probably going to set his sights on that Foreman Power Rune. And speaking of them, up top, Eris is laning up against CML's Undying and MCY's IO. So you've got the IO Undying lane. There is some potency there. MCY does go for Overcharge level 1, which I like. Enables him to just harass out Van. It's a range versus melee lane, and with level 1 Overcharge, the IO can kind of apply some harassment. So it's a heads-up play this time for MCY. Once you have more levels in, I think you're looking for the Undying Spike a Tree. You might be able to play a little bit more aggressive here, but you also have to watch out for that burst potential on the side of Cignal Ultra as well.
You certainly will. There is a lot of burst potential here from Cignal. See how they do play it. For now, they're going to just contest this pull that's happened here from Eris. Surprised CML wasn't actually able to interrupt this pull that Eris was going for. That'll pretty much deny a full wave off MCY up at this top lane. He's going to try and contest the large camp, but Eris does still get that large creep. Centaur does go the way of the Mirana. MCY is going to cop a lot of harassment on his way out. In fact, Eris is going to jump in for a nice arrow on MCY. One more hit would do it, and he does get it. Eris, seeing the opening and landing everything perfectly, able to get the first blood for the side of Cignal Ultra.
And that's how you want to start here for Cignal. We talk about the potency of their burst. They're finding those kills. Now, they did find a trade down bot by killing off a bot, but the IO's timings are so much more sensitive. I don't think a bot's going to mind too much. It's still a good pickup for Adroit, but you still are hurting more from losing your IO here in comparison.
I don't know, I mean, it is definitely a pretty tough lane here for a bat on this Bloodseeker, but you don't want to die too many times like that. It does feel like the Bloodseeker is going to be a bit more important in terms of POS ones to not fall apart. The IO eventually is just going to be out of control. While we're looking at bot, Eris is able to get a kill onto CML up that top lane again, so Eris, a secondary kill for him already. And mid lane, Jamesy is going to get very low on the Mars. He's going to put the shield up and try to survive, but Mac is going to have the damage output. And it's going to be the second kill now for Adroit, but that's a much more influential kill considering he died solo to an Invoker, which I didn't really imagine happening as a Mars, but Mac does make it happen.
Yeah, you've really got to watch your positioning there. If you are this Mars, you give Mac an opportunity to land his combo, and if it does land, well, magic damage doesn't care too much for your physical dodge and your bulwark. So Mac just working that lane out well. He's going to get a nice reset once the power runes are up. You've already got Boomy walking up to secure the bot rune. So they've already kind of got the numbers here, and you don't see Cignal committing the same. It's going to be a pretty big boon here for Mac if he does get that bottle refill. Like Jamesy doesn't need it as much because he just died, of course, so he just TP'd in. But you do need this refill here for Mac just to at least sustain himself, or at least maybe get a nice haste rune to run around the map with.
Bottle rate? Mac doesn't have a bottle.
Alright.
Oh. Aether Remnant going to be there from Boomy. Jamesy going to go for the God's Rebuke. Does pick up the Urn Mac, and he is going to get the Invis rune anyway. Does just deny it off though, not willing to pick it up. Doesn't want to waste his time. Nice spear out from Jamesy. Gonna lock him in for a bit. Down at the bot lane, Nico gonna cop a blood right there. Bat trying to get aggressive while the Void Spirit has left the lane. And even top lane, MCY's courier does end up going down. That was a pickup by our Tiny being played by Van. Looks like a Bat now has somewhat taken over this bot lane as well on the Bloodseeker. Go after Boomy, who can't really run away. He doesn't have Dissimulate, nor does he have Astral Step yet, and the Inkswell stun will connect. He's going to try and buy some time, but a Bat is going to take his life away, and will also pick up the Bounty Rune.
That's all Bounty Runes going the way of Cignal now, so they're finding the kills, they're slowly finding the objectives on the map, and they're just keeping this pressure up. This is not what Adroit wants here.
No, it's not. CML does also die. Thanks to Van. Grimm's trying to salve up, does get away with the salve as well. Nico unable to cancel it off, and now with the Inkswell Bat, he might just keep going. The stun will connect with the Blood Ride. That's a great little play out from Cignal Ultra down at that bot lane, while MCY also going down. Van able to pick up another kill on the Tiny. And Cignal Ultra just really starting to come out online with their own drum.
Yeah, they're just hitting those spikes. We've got the nuke damage coming out from Van and Eris. They've already taken control of that lane. It's just such a slow ramp up for an IO. The Bloodseeker again gets off to a much faster start. A bot's able to apply pressure onto the Slaughter, and Adroit's draft, everything but the IO wants to play pretty fast. The Undying needs more laning presence here, and well, they're already 2 levels behind compared to Van. They did go for a 1-2-1 build, but I don't see any opportunities for CML to even use this Tombstone just yet. So it's going to have to wait a little bit more Van at 6 is already pretty darn scary. He's got the nuking damage. He's got level 1 grow. It's a hard lane to hold now if you're the IO, and you need to start thinking about that jungle now.
Bad. Getting aggressive again on towards Nico, but Nico does avoid the blood right. Still, Grim's now going to come in with the Inkswell out. Bat going to go for a bit of a chase, does connect with the Inkswell, and he does have another blood right, but Nico going to be forced to just try and dodge this out. The silence is there. He can't stun yet. He will eventually get it out, but Grims will have the stroke of fate to connect, and a Bat is going to get blocked by his own creeps, but it won't matter. They get the kill anyway. A 7-2 now with a 3k net worth lead for Cignal Ultra. You really couldn't ask for a better start if you are this Radiant side.
Yeah, the only lane Signal's kind of losing out on is mid, where, you know, you've got Mac just a bit ahead compared to Jamesy. That is just a solo lane. You're not seeing Cignal really invest the resources mid, so the Invoker's starting to use those orbs quite well, use the sustain and his spell combinations over Jamesy in a big way. Jamesy's just kind of forced to farm up, so the one thing Signal's allowing is Mac to build up. They might be confident in fighting against that, but they
Nice
do
arrow.
have an arrow.
Yeah, very nice arrow out. Eris again on this Mirana. Every time we see him on this Mirana, he is very influential, whether they win or lose. Eris once again will pick up the kill. Just try and find something else. In fact, it looks like he's trying for an arrow onto Boomy here. Boomy won't run to the low ground for the power rune yet, but he will run into Grims eventually. Arrow is on its way, but it will not connect. Boomy will be alright. And the power rune did spawn up at the top lane anyway, and that's going to go to CML on the Undying.
Yeah, it's they've got to keep eyes on that Mirana. They do have some wards now, watching potential movement out, but it's already a bit too late. At this point, Adroit, you know, they've already got MCY running around the jungle. He's got his Dominate to play with. They need to just protect that jungle now.
Bot lane, 2 kills going the way of Mac now. Abat and Eris both going down that bot lane, and of course with the corrosive haze out from Nico, it does make it so Mac does hit quite a bit harder on that Invoker. However, up at the top lane, CML's going to be chased down now on the Undying. That's going to be another kill going out to our Tiny. Nice easy stuff here for Cignal Ultra as they do now go after that tier 1 top tower. And there won't be really much time for Adroit to try and defend this.
No, and they could try to go for a trade on that bot tier 1. I mean, Mac does hit pretty decently with the Alacrity up, but that push is just not going to match the pace as the top tier 1 was already chipped away. So it's going to be a slower push down bot for Adroit. There might be time for Cignal to come back in. It looks like they're just going to focus on farm. You've already got a bot focus on mid. He's got his drums up. He's got his phase boots up. So our Bloodseeker's actually ready to just throw his body out. But again, Adroit's just not really able to push. Their lineup just can't do it that fast.
No, they can't. Looks like Cignal Ultra, they'll probably wait for that 10-minute siege creep to spawn up to maybe try for a mid-tier 1 tower push. Stan is going to come in, but clearly whiffs the Avalanche, and the Aether Remnant is going to lock him in. He's trying to run away, but it looks like he is almost certainly just going to die, and Boomy is able to pick up the kill on the Void Spirit. Nice pick up there on the Tiny. The Moonlight Shadow was popped by Eris. He's running into the mid lane, but Arena was also committed there by Jamesy. Eris will take the kill on the Mirana by landing that arrow. Onto CML they go. He pops the Flesh Golem, trying to go after Eris, who has run out of leap charges. He'll die as well. Abat still trying to fight this one out, but CML just standing the blood right, trying to fight back. It looks like they might actually win this one out. Abat needs to run. He can't fight this Undying right now. It looks like he might just get away as Mac is body blocked up by CML, and Abat, he's too fast anyway.
Yeah, it's a strange set of movements out from Cignal. They're kind of streaming in one by one. Like, we saw Van kind of working his way back mid once more. They're not quite jumping on the targets the right way. Like, they immediately force the Avalanche, but they know Dissimulate's up. This is going to get worse now that Boomy can play around with his steps, and Adroit, they're feeling confident now. They've got the spikes in their pause 4. They can start hunting themselves.
Oh, Bat going to be in danger again down to the spot lane. Relocate is there from MCY, but Grims is going to come in with the Soulbind to try and help out. It's just not going to be enough, as this pause 4 Void Spirit and Nico really getting quite active now. Mostly just Boomy though on this Void Spirit. Has been a real menace towards the side of Cignal Ultra. Well, he might need to rotate as the mid-tier 1 is being pushed in again, but he's more than happy to just try and set up down to that bot tier 1 instead.
Yeah, they still need to find their first tier 1. They're just going to go for a bit of a trade. The mid tier 1's still slow going of a push here for Cignal. Like, you've got Mac ready to clear that creep wave anyway. Van just has a hard time gap closing because he doesn't have a blink yet. So Mac just does this. They get some space out. They're going to find a tier 1 bot because they're buying all the space out. And Cignal, they're starting to lag behind in levels here, especially under Mars. So they've got to be a bit cautious with how they commit. They're slowing down their progression on a lot of their heroes, except for a bot who's gotten a little bit more space out. But I think if you're Adroit, yeah, it's 2k behind. They still have this pretty good scaling with the spikes you can expect from MCY. The Ags is just about 1,700 gold off. So it's been steady going after those 2 deaths in laning. His jungle's been uncontested. That's the biggest issue here. Cignal's been satisfied with leaving this IO alone. Could be a big mistake if they don't correct that soon.
I do agree. MCY just working his way to that Ags. Very close indeed. You know, I question how much it's going to do, though, without the 20 talent. It does feel kind of lackluster without that level 20 up. And Van seems to notice the issue, does run in with an Inksaw and a toss-up. MCY, however, is actually quite tanky now. He will not die to this. The Cignal are on the run. Van is caught out by the Tornado. The Moonlight Shadow, however, was there, and apparently no detection is available as now the Soulbind and the Arena comes in. Jamesy sets up on one. That's Mac down onto CML. Now onto Nico. He's trying to fight back, but he's by himself. And he will probably just die here as he tries to run into the tree line, but a bat's got the blood right out, and Nico is just going to accept the fact that he is going to die. Great turnaround there by Cignal Ultra. It was looking pretty darn bad before the rest of the team did come in. And Adroit, well, they kind of fell victim to the Moonlight Shadow there. And hope they have some detection next time around.
Yep, that should be a learning lesson. You gotta respect that, Mirana. Kind of surprising, but you know, it is what it is. Sometimes it happens to a lot of teams as well. They make that small mistake. It is costly. The lead is now up 4k for Cignal, so that is a very noticeable gap now. You are still finding progress here with MCY, but your progression on Mac has slowed down. Your progression on Nico has completely stalled out. Trying to save up for a BKB on that Slardar. It's a long way off. So you still have a lot of options here if you're Cignal. Again, they're just kind of playing around the aggression they can pump out. They don't have the longest cooldowns. Like, they've got Rupture back up if they want a bot to start going. And a bot, he's going for this very fast build. It's a Maelstrom into BKB here. He really does just want to focus on pushing out the waves, getting some damage out, and standing and fighting with the BKB. And again, the BKB actually ruins a lot of what Adroit does. Like, sure, your Slardar can do damage, but your Io will not. With the spirits or not, it's not going to do much. Your Undying loses its presence. Your Invoker and your Void Spirit does as well, although Grims.
Yeah, bot lane. It's going to go down here on the Grimstroke. Does get an Inksaw stun off on Mac, but MCY will go ahead and take the kill on the IO. That died triangle, Eris, he's trying to steal a bounty rune away from Adroit, but looks like he does not want to die for it, so he will back off. And Mac was able to get the other. So a 3-for-1 trade on the bounties. Cignal Ultra only managing to get one thanks to a bat in that triangle. Looks like a bat. He saw Boomy for a second, but not going to be able to close the gap to get the Rupture off. It's like he wants to wait for that Maelstrom to come out with the BKB. But Boomy doesn't seem to mind. He'll jump in right now if he needs to. I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised Boomy doesn't get jumped on here, but mid lane, Mac looks to be going down and does. Now the Soulbind down. James is going to be in a spot of danger, and he will also die. 1-for-1 trade so far as Grim's now going to be chased down. And he's trying to run, but they will eventually have him. This is what I was kind of talking about with this POS 1 Bloodseeker. You see the POS 4 Void Spirit, you don't Rupture and chase. I don't know what the point of the POS 1 Bloodseeker is in this case, if you aren't going to go for kills.
Yeah, it's a bit too passive from a bot. He needs to be a little bit more aggressive, put himself forward. They do have the blink and the tiny as well, so they've got a lot of ways of just getting in there, starting these fights. A bot needs to, again, put his body out front. You don't really want to play a farming game against the IO, mainly because, even discounting the damage he does, he's going to sustain at least one hero here for a very long time. And you have to remember, there's an Undying here with Soul Rip. So you go onto the tether target, he Soul Rips the IO, you get a huge amount of burst healing on the target that the IO is hooked onto. So the sustain is going to be sick from Adroit as the game goes on. Cignal needs to respect that. And I guess the timing is really just a BKB for a bot. He doesn't feel comfy going into Mac. They've been landing their spells. There is a smoke from Adroit, though.
Yeah, Aether Remnant going to lock down Jamesy. The spear away MCY. Meanwhile, Van jumping in onto Boomy, but he doesn't have the damage output to kill off the Void Spirit. James is still in a spot of danger, tries to run, but cannot. He will drop. Now Grimm's going to get hit by a tornado. MCY will be there, and Grimm's is very, very low. Abat is coming in with the Blood Right, chasing down MCY. They also got Mac on the Invoker, and Abat, he'll finally pop that Rupture, but MCY going to go for a TP away, and is just going to be fine. CML now. He's going to be fine to run out of that Blood Right and just salve up. Van going for a toss back onto Boomy. That's really going to be it. And now Nico's going to be there with the Slaughter onto Eris. In fact, never mind, they'll go onto Van. Van should almost certainly just be dead as Jamesy is going to run back in with the arena, actually saving Van's life. Now onto Boomy with the spear. He will set up for two and maybe even a third as Nico does eventually die to Eris. So that arena does turn everything around here from Jamesy, and he does allow his Tiny to run away.
Yeah, it ends up being a 3 for 4 going the way of Cignal, so definitely a favorable trade for them, but not very clean. You're seeing the typical issues you see with Bloodseeker. TPs are definitely broken against the hero. They need a way, they need to kind of hook up. A bot needed to be in that fight way earlier on. Again, this farm trading is just not what you want to see. But again, Cignal is just waiting for that BKB on a bot, so they're just going to have to contend with that fact. Maybe be a little bit more cautious with these fights until that item comes in for your Bloodseeker. Adroit for their part, they've already got the Ags running MCY. He's got a lot of presence. We saw just how fast Adroit can re-engage when MCY and Nico are together.
Jamesy caught out again in this mid lane. Aether Remnant going to lock him down, and he is probably just dead here. The ice path, or rather ice wall, is there, and he does indeed go. However, Van does catch out Nico on the Slaughter. Just a complete mess in this game one between these two teams with Cignal Ultra. They are still holding that net worth advantage at 5k. Boomy is going to spot out this Tiny with the Aether Remnant to lock him down, and CML will pop the Flesh Golem. He will survive through the Avalanche toss. They do try to chase down Eris a little bit. Eris is going to be okay to leap away as Adroit. They will get back to that mid-tier 1 tower. And it looks like MCY is indeed going to be able to kill it off eventually. Very nice and easy for him.
Yeah, and Adroit are starting to find the trades they want. They're starting to apply that aggression. Cignal again is just a bit too split up. They're not really able to clump up together in a good way because they want to keep farming like this. A bot is just a recipe away from BKB. Again, that's going to be a big spike for him, but you have sacrificed a little bit of your Tiny's farm and a little bit of your Mars's farm to get this done. So Jamesy's blink is a bit too stalled out. Adroit for their part, they're seeing the BKB on Nico. It's actually progressing pretty well, a bit slower than a bot, but there is some progress now. It was a lot worse for Nico earlier on, so he's kind of found a way to bounce back in. MCY is allowed to build into his own BKB, so Spell Immunity's coming out for everyone. And this is going to definitely benefit Adroit in a big way. Cignal needs to be a bit careful. They still have potency going late. The trades are just not going cleanly. It doesn't feel like they have a big enough lead to justify how they're playing right now. They're just playing it super cautiously when they've got this natural burst up on Van that they haven't maximized as much as you'd expect. And Adroit is pretty much just going to be happy like this. Like every time you try to fight in, Relocate's ready to go on MCY. He's got his damage up. Even out the talent, it's still pretty darn strong at this point, with the BKB still waiting to come out. And with no pipe. I think that's the bigger kicker here for Cignal. They don't have someone carrying pipe, carrying a mech to help them sustain through. Adroit has multiple sources of sustain. You've got an IO, you've got Undying. So if these fights drag long, Adroit does sort of win out there because they can hold themselves up a bit longer. For Cignal side, they only have a bot that naturally does that to himself.
It's like Adroit are grouping up. They are going to go for a smoke. BKB has just been picked up on our Bloodseeker, so this could be very bad timing, but not really. They found Jamesy again. Jamesy, seemingly always in the most dangerous position as the mid-Mars, does go down once again, farming in a spot that really doesn't belong to his team. For Cignal, they're going to go for an avalanche toss. They do catch out CML. Not going to be a very good trade for Cignal. They definitely want a bit more than that. It looks like they are not going to be able to get into the Dire Triangle themselves. In fact, Boomy is going to try and chase down this Bloodseeker. Bat will be forced to use his 10-second BKB charge, but Bat is going to jump in for an avalanche toss onto Mac as the arrow also comes in onto Nico with a great blood right out. It's going to connect on all three heroes. They get Mac down on that Invoker. Nico's also going to die. It looks like the IO is going to be fine. He was relocated out. Grim's still trying to chase down Boomy, but Boomy does have a haste rune. He should be just fine. Or maybe not. Eris has found him. Not going to bother using the leap charges for the Inkswell attempt as Astral Step. Yeah, it was actually on cooldown, but he did have Dissimulate. So the 5k net worth lead still just remains. It's been like that for quite a bit of time. So now Eris is going to get caught out by Boomy, who's just been all over the map on this possible Void Spirit. He's probably going to be able to find another one, and does.
Your titles mean nothing to me.
It's a back and forth between both teams, but as you mentioned, the net worth lead for Cignal has held steady. You're not too pleased with how a bot used that first BKB, but he still found some kills, so I think in the end, you're also not going to be too upset. But Adroit, they're going to try to rush. So they want to play around this objective. Second life is going to be big. Cignal can't allow this one to go for free, and they do have their spells up. They can contest this if they wanted to.
Yeah, they can. Looks like they aren't going to make it to that Roshan pit. It is eventually going to go down to Adroit. Boomy is going to TP up towards the bot lane there, but Van is waiting in the tree line, it seems. I don't really think Van can kill him off solo. And that Hooded Defiance on Boomy does make it a lot tougher. In fact, Boomy's the one who was waiting. Does go for the Aether Remnant onto our Tiny, and now MCY going to relocate in with Mac, and that is going to be Van going down. Very nice patience there from Boomy on the Void Spirit.
Yeah, and Cignal again, they're trying to go around one by one. The burst potential, as you pointed out, it's not great anymore in your Tiny. You kind of sat on it for too long. You need to start playing as a team, start playing with your arena, and you can see Adroit, that's what they're doing. They're playing as 4, they're playing as 3, and then they just kind of group up and keep taking these fights one by one.
Boomy just keeps catching people out here on this Void Spirit over and over again. With this Yule Scepter and Aether Remnant, he just continues to find and lock people down. It's just so easy for his team to back him up and just get easy kills. With that, they leave now as Mac has been caught on the Invoker. He does lose the Aegis, but Nico is going to rush in on the Slardar now, trying to catch out this Mars, but it looks like he's going to be just fine to run out of there. But it seems like Cignal Ultra, they might be running out of time. I mean, that level 20 is pretty close for MCY. Once he has it up, I kind of talked about this before, but it does become extremely difficult to contest MCY on this IO. As Eris going to get caught by another Aether Remnant of Boomy and does go down.
Yeah, it's, again, it's just one by one. Cignal, they're not respecting the jump potential from Adroit. They're not considering just how fast Adroit can bring their numbers up onto Cignal.
And Avalanche toss with the blood right out. Another toss up, in fact, and it's not going to be enough to kill off Nico. He does BKB up, but a Bat is rushing forward. He is taking a lot of damage, though. A Bat is fighting all by himself. He's going to go down. Now Nico gets another. And Eris, once again, this 8th Remnant from Boomy is going to lock him down with the Spirits out from this IO. He's going to use up, but he's dead anyway. Now Jamesy jumps in and kills off Mac on the Invoker. And it's still a huge win out for Adroit. MCY is 20 now, or level 20 on this IO. So his Spirits are dealing a lot of damage. And I'd say Adroit are well and truly ahead of this game now.
Yep, and Cignal, they just went into that last defense uncoordinated. Like, they didn't have Jamesy around. He didn't have his arena ready, but you already had a bot standing in front. So desperate to hold on to that tier 2. Because of that, they lose the tier 2 and they lose everything. They lose their lead. It's now a 1k lead for Adroit. Their power spikes are being met. MCY, this level 20 spike is just a monster to deal with. You will need the BKB charges to be ready every single time you fight. They do not have a pipe here on Cignal's side, but they do at least have one Glimmer Cape, which will help. But you would most definitely want some... Yeah, the pipe would be so helpful to block off MCY's damage, and it's just slow going. Like, as you mentioned, Boomy's been allowed to really play around here, although...
He's not going to get caught out. The 8th Remnant again going to lock down Jamesy. He could try to chase him down, but his blink was 5 seconds off. It was on cooldown, so no real chance for him to just chase up this Void Spirit. Even if you did, it's just a +4 Void Spirit. It's not that big of a deal for Adroit to lose. The man you really have to catch is going to be MCY, who now has the full Mjolnir up on the IO, so a lot more damage coming out from him. This is going to get really painful for Cignal Ultra. At the very least, though, they have found Mac in that mid lane as the Invoker, and Mac will indeed go down. They do get a very nice pick-off on the Voker. I still think that MCY is going to be the main issue, though. They really do need to try and hunt this man down.
They do. They need to throw a lot of lockdown onto him, try to get him bursted down. It's very difficult to get burst down on him now. He's got his own cloak. He's got all the regen in the world from the Undying just spamming Soul Rip onto him. You know, he's just fairly tanky now as well. I think Cignal, they've kind of caught themselves in a weird situation. Like, you pointed it out, but a bot just took way too long. The Bloodseeker, he can still do damage. He is saving up for the Abyssal, so that's going to be the lockdown they need. But it's still a long ways off. He still has to save up a lot of gold to get that done. They need to start finding some objectives here to shrink that map down, but at this point, it's not going to stop Adroit. They're still finding farm. They're ready to just toss MCY everywhere, and they don't care as much.
Boomy just going to jump in onto 2 again with the Astral Step. 8th Remnant will not connect, but Nico's got a great start off onto 3 heroes. Straight away, just going after a bat and taking him out. Boomy's gone, but will it matter? Probably not. They've got Van as well on the Tiny. And now, looks like they have also found out the Mars, Jamesy. He does manage to barely blink away. Down at the bot lane, however, Eris is also going to die. And looks like Jamesy is just being slowed up by the Ghost Walker Mac into the Cold Snap. And, well, definitely Blast won't really land, but he gets silenced up in his own arena. He's not going to be able to spear anyone in time and will die to CML and Mac. So it's just a complete mess now for Cignal Ultra. MCY, he has the Spirits out. Look at the damage he's dealing. Grims can't survive that. They're going to go after a tier 3 tower now with this full team wipe out from Adroit.
Yeah, it's Cignal. They just missed their timings. And MCY, he's big. Again, losing these objectives now for Adroit, as long as it's not the high ground, it doesn't matter as much. They don't need TP points when they've got IO relocate. It's just so fast to get 2 heroes on top at every single time. You don't mind. Boomy's got his Ags now, so he's got the Silence with the Resonance Pulse along with the charges. And Cignal, they're going to have to find a way to hold out. They at least won't get Megid as they have a tier 2 standing, but it looks like they will have to drop these 2 racks straight up. It doesn't look like Detroit's going to pull back at all.
No, they're not. I don't see a reason why they would anyway. They're just so powerful right now. Right, MCY is going to have a Satanic coming up soon on this IO. That's going to make it impossible to come back. They get 2 Rexes. That'll be enough. There is going to be a bit of a chase here. Nico, he's going to turn around now with Boomy straight on. They go after that Mars. Rupture out. don't even know who it's on. It just doesn't matter though. Everyone's just standing still and attacking. Ban's gonna die. Looks like a Bat is gonna be in huge trouble as well once this BKB wears off. Look at the spirit damage coming out from MCY. Just all connecting on a Bat. And this game is just about over. It's about that point where you just call the GG if you Cignal Ultra. There is no coming back from this game.
No, they've missed their timing. There's nothing about him. He's just gone.
Yep, there's the GG call. The Bat calls it. And Adroit, they do at least get a 1-0 to start off the day, and that will guarantee tiebreakers. So now we know we're going to have tiebreakers coming up after the initial 2 series we have on. It's just going to be a matter of whether Adroit get a 2-0, which will change the tiebreakers, or whether it's going to be a draw, which will also change the tiebreakers.
Yeah, it's we'll see what Adroit brings out. Cignal Ultra, rather unfortunate loss for them. They had a really good start, couldn't quite close out the game, had some interesting decisions there towards mid-game, and you just don't let that happen. You don't. If you let the IO through, you have to shut it down fast, and Cignal Ultra just got a bit complacent there in game 1.
Yeah. It's all going to be, by the way, with these tiebreakers, it is all going to be about, it seems to be Adroit, Boom Esports, and Among Us, who are all going to be tied in 3rd place. If they do go 1-1, and even if they go 2-0, it looks like Among Us and Boom are going to have to fight the tiebreaker for a 4th and 5th place slot. So it is still all over the place, and we're going to have more information as the games go on, and hopefully, you know, maybe after this game, I can explain what the hell is going on with this tiebreaker. But for now, it's MLP Dota and JohnXfire. We'll be back in about 10 minutes for our 2nd game of this best of 2.